Anyways, college basketball. I think the main storyline is that there's a good amount of so like everybody's going to be talking about who's going to win March Madness, who's all these teams. And I listen and I watch at all these other people's opinions, and I watch the games and at least watch the games that I want to watch. I've kind of gathered a list of my own and taking other people's opinions as well and giving it a thought about who I think is going to probably win a national championship, who I think probably won't win a national championship. Let me pull up my list here of a list of teams that are going to win it. The most likely candidates to I think who are going to win national championship are probably Michigan, Houston, Duke, Arizona, UConn, maybe Illinois. Okay, so maybe I should do this more in tiers. So I would say the five teams right there I just said are going to be the most likely candidates. I think they're tier one. I think those teams. Well, yeah, I think those teams. As long as Arizona is kind of dealing with some injuries, as long as they're healthy, I think they can win a national championship. I'm going to say those five teams are for sure going to win national championship, or are going to. I should say not for sure because anything can happen in March, and we're sure could happen, either injuries or they lose to somebody. So, anyways, those five teams I think are most likely to win a national championship. The UConn's kind of weird because I've watched a lot of their non-conference games because they were actually playing some good competition, so I watched them. I think they're a good team, but like once I've watched them in Big East play, they haven't really like killed anybody because like the Big East is so down this year. There's only gonna be like 3 teams that make it to the tournament this year out of that conference. The conference this year is just bad, just a bad league this year. So I would say they probably could win a national championship. I'm still going to keep them in that tier just because based on their resume and the record and all that. Because they have beaten some pretty good teams. They beat the beat BYU. They did lose to Arizona. Arizona's pretty good. They did beat Kansas and Illinois and Florida as well. So like I said, they got some good wins under their belt. But like I said, they just kind of been not impressive during conference play in the Big East, so I haven't really given a whole lot of thought and like if UConn could actually win it up. I'm just gonna give them the respect because they've shown in the past that obviously they went back to back like 2 years ago or something yeah, I guess it's almost 2 years now. Anyways, then I would say the second tier of teams that are like on the dark horse / they could win a national championship. I would say like teams like Iowa State, Kansas, Illinois, Florida. I would also throw in, who did I say? Iowa State, Kansas, Illinois, Florida, and maybe Texas Tech. But after this recording, we don't know the injury of JT Toppin, and also they just lost to Arizona State. That's kind of like Texas Tech is such a weird team. They're kind of a weird team. I think they are legit. I think Christian Anderson and JT Toppin are two of the best tandem in college basketball. They're one of the best two in college basketball, definitely in the Big 12 for sure. But they have weird losses. Obviously, last night to Arizona State, but I guess at least I don't know yet the significant injury to JT Toppin. At least I was gonna look it up here. You know what? Let's just look up to see if we have any updates on JT Toppin. I doubt it, but let's just give it a good old fashioned look up here. You know what? I'm not even gonna try to use Twitter because sometimes looking up things on Twitter is horrible. So let's just look up on the internet. JT Toppin. Let's see if we get it. Injury update. Okay, so let's see. Okay, this is from Yahoo Sports. We're gonna read this article here. Let's see. After the loss, Grant McCaskill addressed the injury in his press conference. Okay, it's hard to say until we get a good look at it closely, but I just know he's really disappointed. He's such a competitor. He'll be back and get him. Look at it. and look at it. So I guess yeah, there hasn't really been too much of an update because I tuned in. I wasn't really gonna watch the game because I figured Texas Tech was gonna beat them, but this I guess this was sort of a total letdown spot just because they just beat Arizona at Arizona and then like having like about 3 days before having to play Arizona State, and this was going to be a total letdown spot for them. So I think because I tuned in about with 3 minutes left, and the JT Toppin injury happened with about 5 minutes left. So I guess, like I said, I don't know what to make of Texas Tech. I guess if JT Toppin's healthy, I think they're legit. I think they could be a dark horse, or at least make a Final Four run for sure. Because like they got a tough loss, a close loss to Illinois, and then they got a blowout loss to Purdue, and then they also have a good wins like Duke, Arizona, and Houston. So, and then they have some weird losses. I'm not gonna say like the Arizona State one. I think is a bad loss, but like like the UCF. I'm not gonna say that's a bad loss, but like it's like one of those like you probably should have won that one. But like UCF is also beating some good teams in the Big 12. They've beaten them. They've beaten Kansas, and didn't they beat anybody else any good? Trying to remember what's UCF. Now this whole pod is just going to turn into a Big 12 pod now. I mean, yeah, they beat Kansas. They beat. I mean, they went down toe to toe with Arizona, but they have some ugly losses as well. I mean, I guess they just recently beat TCU. So, I mean, okay. So yeah, I think those are basically it for dark horses. And then if you ask me who are going to be the like Final Fours or anything like that, I would say like Purdue, Nebraska. Nebraska just lost to Iowa, but I still think they could still make a deep run. I still think they're a very talented team. Just last time there was 5 upsets, so I mean everybody basically lost on the road. Like Nebraska lost on the road, Texas Tech lost on the road. I think North Carolina lost on the road. The St. Louis team, they're the sort of the probably most likely going to be the Cinderella teams that everybody's going to be picking in the brackets, just lost. So I think there was another one too, but I can't remember. But yeah, this year's college basketball season has been pretty interesting because like I said, I think there's about five legit teams I think could win it all, and then obviously you have sort of the dark horses that I just mentioned a minute ago. But obviously there's probably going to be a team like maybe if Virginia comes out of nowhere, kind of makes a deep run, and makes it to a Final Four, or even. And I know some people are kind of down on Gonzaga just because they have the Portland loss and they got their ass kicked by Michigan. But yeah, and then and then also another storyline heading into coming up in this tournament is Miami of Ohio is still undefeated. They're 25-0. They just beat UMass last night, and they're 25-0. And basically, the talk is they basically are going to have to go undefeated this regular season, and because that way, if they lose a game in the MAC tournament game, like let's say in the like in the either in their first game or the semifinals, they could still be in, but I think they at least have to go undefeated in the regular season to still be a contention for making the tournament. I think they should be in regardless if they lose one game in the regular season and another game in their tournament, or even go undefeated and then lose a game in their tournament. I think they should be in regardless. They should be in the field, no questions asked, put them in the field. If the committee does not put Miami of Ohio with one loss in the tournament, shut it down. Shut the whole tournament down. It's a joke. Because yeah, I mean, like, there's some other teams you can look at here, like North Carolina, but they don't have Caleb Wilson. He's out for a little bit, but he said he's going to come back. So I don't know what to make of North Carolina. They also have some weird losses. So, and then you have like Vanderbilt, who was like sort of like a hot team this year, but then they have some ebbs and flows. So, and then like you've got like team like BYU, who I was sort of all in on this year. I was like, oh man, they got AJ DeBonza, they got some really good players, and then the news of Richie Saunders kind of sucks after what was it this past Saturday? He tore his ACL, so that he'll be out for the rest of the year. And it's basically just going to be him. It's going to be AJ DeBonza and Robert Wright basically going to have to carry that team to sort of what their potential was to make a deep tournament run and get to at least Elite Eight. I would think would be satisfying for BYU fans, even though I'm sure a lot of BYU fans were thinking that they got AJ DeBonza to come to their school, and they were thinking that they were probably going to be definitely a national championship contendership. Sure, just because you have a potential number one overall pick on your team, and you have some really good pieces around them, but like sometimes I feel like BYU isn't necessarily playing their best. They're just not really a great defensive team. They can score. Don't get me wrong, they can score, but like they just haven't really been consistently been a good defensive team. So if they could somehow figure out how to play some type of better defense, I think that I could see BYU, and especially if the type of draw that they get, and what kind of seed they are, if they're going to be like a 5 seed, because I think they're going to be a dangerous like 4 or 5, even maybe even a 6. I don't know, depending on how this year goes for them, how the rest of the season goes. Because I still think they could be at least a 4. Let's look at since we're kind of just talking about the bracketology. Let's just look up a bracket real quick and see what some of these teams are looking like. All right, this I'm looking at Joe Lenardi's bracketology. This was updated as of yesterday at 8 a.m. All right, so the number one overall seed is obviously Michigan. You got Duke as the number one seed. Arizona and UConn are all still number one seeds. Let's find BYU. Where's BYU at here? Let's see. BYU. They are they're a 6 seed. So, man, they would, just based on Joe Lenardi's bracketology, oh my God, they would play Miami of Ohio. Oh, man. That's a everyone's gonna be, if that matchup would happen, everyone would totally pick Miami of Ohio, even though you would think AJ DeBonza and the crew could easily get past a MAC team like them, but like weird things happen in March, so man, that would be a fun game to watch. I'm not gonna lie, BYU versus Miami of Ohio, man, that would be fun. That would be a good. I don't. Like saying out loud, I think, oh man, that should be a good game. But then like BYU blows them out by like 20, just because I think BYU is way more athletic than Miami of Ohio is, and strictly based on talent alone. I need to watch like a Miami of Ohio game, because I've only watched like a little parts of it. I need to watch like a game from start to finish. I need to watch the game just to see how actually good this team could be if they could win at least a game in the tournament. Because I think they could win a game just based on what I've heard and based on their record. I'm just going to give them the respect. I think they could upset somebody. I don't know who, because obviously the bracket isn't out yet, but like I think they could win a game. I'm going to say for now, until I watch a game or something like that, they're going to win a game. And then I also need to watch that St. Louis team that just lost last night to Rhode Island. I need to figure out, because what I've heard is basically they're really good. They're a pretty solid offensive team. They're really physical defensively.